This is Darkling Veil. We're going to set up Darkling Veil first so you can see how it's set up and then played. This is the first player token. These are the dice. These only represent your hand size. They're not actually used for any kind of movement. There's a rule book, and then there are various cards in the box. In the box, we have artifact cards. These are the ones with this back on them. We'll talk about those in a moment. Then you have monster cards. These are our beautiful monsters. We have veil cards, which have the same backs as the beautiful monsters. I'll explain why in a few moments. And then we have our harbingers, which have a different card back. And we'll set those aside as well. To set up, we're going to take the monsters, shuffle them up, and we're going to deal out 3 stacks of 3. And then the rest of the monster cards can be set aside. They won't be used in this game. Then we take the veil cards and we do the same thing. We shuffle them together, or shuffle them, and then we deal out 1 more card to each of those 4 stacks, and the rest of the veil cards can be set aside also. Then we take each of these individual stacks and we shuffle them by themselves. And we stack them together so that we can see, so we can create a 12-card deck of various levels of risk throughout the entire game. Then we take one of the Harbinger cards, shuffled up also, and one of those gets put on the top of the deck. And then the rest of the Harbingers also can be put aside, don't need those for the rest of the game. Each player takes 1 die. We're just going to do 2-player game version. And the first player token is handed out. And now the artifacts. The artifact deck all has the same backing on them. And there are different kinds of artifacts involved. There's 5 different kinds of artifacts. There are weapons, wands, weapons with red, wands with blue, rings with orange, totems with green, and potions with purple for a background. Within the kinds of items there are, it also lists weapon, wand, ring, totem, potion. There's also a subcategory for each one of them. There are legendary items, 1 of each in each of the 5. Legendary items, when they come into play, you can only have 1 legendary in your collection at a time. And if you have a second one come into your collection for any reason, you, as the owner of the collection, can decide which legendary survives and which one will be discarded. There's also cursed items, which have a negative side effect for the person who owns them. And they all have a different ability as far as that's concerned. There will also be an icon next to some of them. This is the face value of the card that's next to it. There will also be an icon next to it sometimes that looks like the skull with the butterflies on it. This means there is something on that card that's special to the end of the game that happens as far as the end of the game is concerned. Each card has the ability. There's different kinds of abilities on cards. This one, having the skull on here, is a scoring card, which means there's scoring things that happen at the end of the game along with that card. There are also some that say end times here, which will be when the game is over. There's something else that can be done before scoring happens. Constants, while this card is in your collection, that condition stays in play the entire time. There are effects. Effects are something that happens anytime that artifact enters your collection. So in this particular case, this one can copy the effect of another artifact, but only if it says effect on it or required effect. There are things like our required effects. Now, required effects are unique to effects. There are cards that will say ignore effect. you cannot ignore a required effect. And if you cannot fulfill the conditions of the required effect, the card will be destroyed instead of played into your collection. Then there are also instants, which can be played at any time. And there are some that say special, which I did not grab a special card. There are some that say special, and those have specific conditions listed on the card of when you can play them. So we're going to take all the artifacts, we're going to shuffle them together. And we're going to set them with room for a discard pile. We created our conditions deck with room for 3 discard piles, which will become obvious in a few moments. So player number 1 turns over the Harbinger. The Harbinger will set, this particular case, sets everyone's hand size to 4, so the die will go to 4, because this number will change throughout the game. And then each player may discard any number of cards and balance again. So after they get their initial hand, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, after they get their initial hand, they'll be able to discard any number of cards they want to and rebalance. Now what balance means is that you change your hand size to, change however many cards are in your hand to your hand size as listed on the die. So everybody's hand size is 4 right now because of this Harbinger. So if this player wanted to, they could say, okay, starting with this player, we're going to go ahead and discard one of these cards, and then rebalance, which means draw back up to 4. If for some reason he had more than 4 cards, he would have to discard down to 4. And it does happen. You only balance, unless a card tells you otherwise, you only balance at the end of your turn. This player is not going to discard anything. So now, first player, which is over on this side where this token is, first player will choose a card from their hand and play it into their collection. It's best if you keep all the like items together as you play. This particular card comes into play. When it comes into my collection, it has an effect. It says draw 2 cards and then play another totem. So I'm going to draw 2 cards. I'm going to play another totem if I want to. I don't have to. And I'm not going to play this one because this one would require me to swap with the other player, and I don't want to do that at this time. So I'm going to not play anything. So he's not going to play that totem. He's instead going to discard a card because he has to discard down to 4 his hand size. And then it is the next player's turn. So this player is going to choose a card to play, and we're just going to go with the Crystallized Skull Totem. This is a scoring card that happens at the end of the game. Gets -1 point for every artifact type in his collection. So it starts at 5, but it gets -1 for every artifact type in his collection. So right now it's worth 4 because he has 1 type in his collection. And then he draws up to 4 again, balances back. And then first player turns over the next condition card, which is a monster that will say is a constant. You can discard up to 2 cards before balancing. It's actually a pretty good one for us. So now this player will play something. He's going to play a cursed potion into this player's field, because you can play artifacts into other players' fields. And then he's going to balance back up. Oh, he can discard up to 2 cards too. But actually he's going to discard this one because I don't like this card very much. He's going to discard up to 2 cards, and then he's going to balance to 4. Now this player, it's their turn. He's going to play this potion here. No way, he can't play this potion because this cursed artifact also came with another stipulation that says any legendary artifacts that come into play can't be played or will be destroyed as soon as they come in. If it says destroyed, it goes to the discard pile before it gets played. If it says sacrifice, it's sacrificed from your collection. He can play this potion, though, because it's a regular potion. It's not a legendary. And this one will give him +1 point at the end of the game for every negative face value card he has. So then he balances back up to 4, and we do it again. We draw another card. And then we keep doing this until we have end of game. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to play a couple cards out of here. I'm going to swap a totem. Swap to this one. By playing that card out, by playing this card into my collection, I swap totem with the other one, but we ignore the effects because of what the card says. We ignore the effects that are on the cards, so it doesn't do it again, in other words. And then we're going to draw back up to 4. We're going to have this player play another card. This is a weapon. All other opponents have to discard a card at random from their hand. Now, my hand is back down to 3, but I don't balance yet because it's not the end of my turn, it's the end of his turn. So he's going to draw another card to balance, and then we turn over a Veil card. Now, when the Veil cards get turned over, we do, for the first 2 of them, we do the Thinning of the Veil. So we'll do this hand size change first. Everybody's hand size went up by 1, up to 5. And then we'll do the effect on the Thinning of the Veil. So starting with the first player, each player draws 1 card for each artifact type in their collection. So I get to draw 1 on this side, and he'll draw 3 on this side. Now, even though this makes his hand size bigger than 5, his hand size is bigger than 5, it's not the end of his turn yet, so he doesn't have to discard yet. Now, because the Thinning of the Veil card was turned over, first player marker moves, and now it's his turn to be first. So he's going to choose one of these cards to play, which this is a great card for him to play right here. He's going to play the Amethyst Egg, which allows him to sacrifice this card plus as many other cards from his collection as he wants. And he gets to put the top X+2 of the artifact deck right here into his collection and ignore their effects. So he's going to sacrifice this one, and he's going to sacrifice this cursed one that was given to him earlier. So he's going to do that, and he gets 4 artifacts in return for it. So he got a cursed weapon, which not great. Got a cursed totem, not great. These 2 are the ones that means any additional totems or any additional weapons that get added to his collection now are going to be destroyed before they can have any effect. He's going to add a wand to his collection. That was 3, and then a 4th one is a potion. So now we'll go through and we would just play this out and out and out. We're going to go ahead and play 1 more card from this side. We'll play the ring, which allows me to play a random card from the discard pile into my collection. But it does not ignore the effect. Oh, look at that. I pulled the Amethyst Egg, which allows me to sacrifice any number of cards. He's already done his thing, so I'm going to go ahead and discard him. And I get to add 4 cards. So there's 1 required effect. Put card from my hand with face value of greater than 0 into someone else's hand. So I have to put that into his hand. He had to discard down to... We forgot to balance his hand. We'll do that in a second. That'll go into his hand. That was 1. This is 2. Me and an opponent would steal a card. We're not going to do it right now because it just adds to complication. This one allows me to search for an artifact. I sacrifice something and go search for an artifact. And then a 4th one here. We're going to go ahead and sacrifice this one, and we're going to go search for another totem in the deck and place it into our collection. Which I would go, in this case, go and search for the legendary artifact, the legendary totem to put into my collection. And shuffle. That was the effect this card had when it came into play. This player forgot to balance down to 5, so he's going to balance down to 5 before I added that card to his hand. And then this player would balance up to 5, etc., etc., etc. So we would go through and do all this, and we would do this and flipping over each time it comes back to first player. So then we're just going to reveal a bunch of cards. We're going to fast forward here. So another n times, we would do that. We would change the hand sizes. This one changes it to 4, -1. Everybody's goes down 1. And the first player token would move again. And then we'd start a third stack, doing what they say each time, until we get to the final thinning of the veil, and we do the n times. We do a -1 hand size again, so everybody's hand size would go down to 3. But you don't have to discard yet because we're not at the end of your turn. And then the n times, you get +1 point for each potion in your collection. Now, everybody's got little scoring guys here. So we're going to score these up real fast. This one has a scoring +1 point for each artifact with a negative face value in the collection. So that's important to remember. But this one is the one that's important, really important here. This one allows me to say, play another artifact into any collection, ignoring effect. So he's got a cursed wand. He's going to throw a cursed wand on this guy. This one also has end game things. This one's scoring, this one's scoring. So we're not going to worry about the scoring ones yet. We'll do the scorings in a minute. All right, so the hands are not important anymore. We can discard those while we add up points. So if this was the way the game had gone, and this is what we had in our collections of the game, we add up the face value points. 1 -1, so that's 0, plus 1 more point. 0 points, 0 points, -1 point, 0 point net. But he also has this end of game scoring thing, which gives him +1 point for every artifact with a negative face value. So there's 1, 2. So he would have 2 points. This player has 1, 2, -2, which is 0, +3, -2 is 1, +5 is 6, -5 is back to 1 again. He gets +1 point for each artifact, or -1 point for each artifact in his collection, which is 4, so he's -3. And then this one gets +1 point for every artifact in his collection, so he's -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So he'd have 4 points, and he'd have, I don't remember what I said, but this one would have more points than that guy did. And then this side would win the game. And that's how you play Darkling Veil.